Hi Fox, how are you doing? Second round of the Tata Steel tournament is already over, and we got the results. Three decisive games today. The first game, Anish Giri beat Arkady Naiditsch in an interesting game where already in a difficult position, the German player let himself he's allowed Giri to build a mating net. Then Levon Aronian won against Fabiano Caruana in a very long and very solid and technical win by the Armenian player, in which he showed strong play. It was really a good game. Both players played very well, but Caruana defended well, but Aronian at the end just won the game. And the other decisive result is the game we're going to see in this video, in which Richard Rapport beats Boris Gelfand. Rapport had the black pieces, so an impressive victory for the young Hungarian GM. The other games were drawn, so we're going to go ahead with this game, which was very, very interesting, very long. The last one to finish just some minutes ago. Not really sure how many hours did it last, but probably more than 4 or 5 or even 6. I'm not really sure. I just lost the management of time. So here we go. Boris Gelfand had lost the previous game, so he wasn't in the best shape possible. But with this defeat, is already in a very dangerous path. So he played d4. Gelfand is white. d4, c5, and there we go, e5, the Budapest Gambit now, played by the young Hungarian genius. Kudos to him, this is incredible. At this level it is not very frequent to see. I remember seeing it the last time in the candidate, where Ivanchuk played it against Aronian, and interesting enough, he got a very good position, although he lost some time. And there it goes. D takes c5, now the main line, knight f3, bishop c5, there are a couple of possibilities here, playing knight c6 at once, or this check on b4, but okay, Rapport goes with the solid approach, bishop c5, e3, bishop c6, knight c6, sorry, knight c3, Rapport castles, nothing really strange. He could have taken on e5 first, but okay. Bishop e2, now he takes with the pawn, with the knight, getting the pawn back and having a solid position. And this is a very normal position in the Budapest. You're getting solid position, not really nothing really crazy. It is usually thought to be the Budapest, but you got a solid and cool position, not bad. Knight takes, and Gelfand approach. Gelfand approach is very solid as well, so he castles, and well, equal chances more or less for both players. Both have bishop pair, not really big weaknesses. White has a little bit more space with this pawn on c4, but his development is still not complete, so roughly equal game here. a5 was played here, not the most common move, but very interesting ideas behind it. As far as I can recall it, this is more or less typical or a desirable move to do in the Budapest. I remember a lecture by the GM Yasser Serra, a good one. You can find on YouTube in the channel of the San Luis Chess Club, and in which I think he mentioned this kind of moves with a5 with some interesting ideas. First of all, it gives some room, some space for the bishop to go back to a7 and still be in this diagonal, which could be potentially good. Then it gives some space black on the queen side and prevents, for instance, the ideas of a3 b4, which would be really great for white. And well, if white plays, for instance, b3, there are some ideas of a4 disrupting these pawn structures. We will see which will happen in the game. And also it gives an extra possibility to the rook to really develop really quickly through a6 to the king side or to the center of the game. Something which is not going to have, which is going to actually happen at the very end game. But okay, never mind. It's an interesting game. It's an extra possibility to the rook to be developed right out of the corner. So here Gelfand played king h1. Not really sure it was necessary, but okay. He thought it is. He's just unpinning this pawn. Doesn't want any tactical issues with this bishop on the same diagonal as the king. d6, very solid, giving now protecting both bishop and knight, giving some squares to the bishop on c8 to play. And f4, Gelfand was playing for this. He will try to get some space on the king side and maybe get something there going. Also, there's the possibility to play with the rook over to the third rank, etc. The knight goes to c6 back, and now b3. His idea is to put the bishop on b2, pretty typical, to have some play on the king side. But this pawn on e3 is going to be weak, and well, it's going to be a cause of some headache for white, as we will see. Is going to cause him some problems, as Rapport is going to be fast in attacking and taking advantage of this weakness. Now rook e8 is just putting the rook on the open file and just attacking it for once. Rook f3 does the double job of defending e3 and also creates the possibility to go to g3, for instance, to attack g7, which combined with, for instance, bishop b2 could be potentially interesting, or the queen going over to the king side, etc. Bishop f5 is, well, developing a piece and also stopping white from playing this e4 move, which could liberate his position, get rid of the weakness, and probably improve his position. Rook g3 and now rook e6. Black is doing more or less the same. Rapport is imitating some this idea of Gelfand of getting the rook on the third, on his third, on the c6 rank, and well, have it available to defend his own king side. Bishop d3. Gelfand decides to get rid of this bishop. Both bishops of black, note that they are very active, placed in c5 and f5. They are controlling lots of squares, so he wants to get rid of some pieces to improve, to relieve just a little of the tiny pressure he has. His position is a little bit uncomfortable. He hasn't completed development yet. So bishop takes, queen takes. But now black has this knight b4, winning the tempo. The queen goes back to d2. And now black develops another piece, queen to e7. Keeps putting more fire on this e3 pawn. It may seem that black could already take advantage tactically of this weakness, and also the awkward position of the queen, the rook, the lack of development, etc. with the move rook takes e3. Because rook takes, bishop takes, queen takes. Now black has this fork, queen, knight c2. But as using the tactics in his favor, it seems white is getting out of the problem, and in fact is going to cause some problem to black, because now the queen goes away, queen g3, and after knight takes a1, where else we came there to take it. Knight d5, white is speculating with the ideas to put the bishop on b2, attack the knight on a1, as well as the pawn on g7 with some deadly attack. And it seems that this isn't great for black, so presumably we can assume that Richard Rapport saw this on the spot, so he didn't went for this. Instead he went for the much more sound queen e7, doubling on the e-file and attacking even more this weakness on e3. Now white can play e4. He's just protecting it with the knight on c3, so there's no way black is taking this. But instead now the queen and the rook are going to try to cause some problems to white on the king side. Just remember that white hasn't completed development and his back rank is potentially weak, as it although it may not seem. Queen h4, as I said, the back rank may be an issue here, and black is playing with the possibilities of taking on e4, etc., with the bishop protecting this g1 square, the queen x-raying the e1 square as well. Rook f3. There was another possibility, for instance here, if white plays f5, here we see the ideas of having, the problems of having this king on the corner, which is pretty much vulnerable now. Queen takes, could take on g3, h takes, and now rook h6 check. If white hadn't this possibility of capturing the giving back the queen on h6, he would be checkmated, so queen takes. g takes, and well, this is a more or less equal endgame in which probably black is better because his pieces are better coordinated, his pawn structure is better, etc. But well, Gelfand didn't went for this f5, probably didn't like to go into a slightly worse endgame and having to suffer for a long time, so he went for rook f3, and here Rapport takes advantage of the back rank weakness of tactics and forces the exchange of the queens with queen c2. First he plays knight c2. Of course, queen cannot take it. This is checkmate. So rook b1, getting away from the attack, and now queen e1 check. Once again, the queen must take. If not, this is checkmate. So queen takes, knight takes. Now he's gaining a tempo, attacking the rook. Going into the endgame, rook played to g3, and Rapport, seeing his advantage in this endgame, he offered the exchange of the rook. Now the rook on g3 is more or less the best, or probably the best one of the, including this knight, the best pieces white has. So he's trying to exchange it. Gelfand puts the knight on d5 first, but Rapport goes ahead and takes it himself. Now we will reach an interesting endgame in which material is equal, but black must be really okay here. He must be better, not yet winning, but he's certainly the one who is going to pressure for the victory. The reasons are few. First of all, this king on h1 is much more vulnerable than the one on g8. This white king is more far away from the center, for instance, and it's also more vulnerable. No, he hasn't got that much space to walk into, and although there are not much pieces left on the board, it still could be an issue. The king's weaknesses, king's vulnerability is always an issue. Then, well, this is pretty much the only good piece white has on d5, pretty well placed. But as we will see, Rapport will take care of it very fast. On the other hand, this bishop doesn't seem that great. It's just hitting a wall on his own pawn on f4, and the rook is not good either. So it's and on the other hand, the white has also a worse pawn structure. He has a double pawn here on g file, and this bishop, for instance, for black is very good. Now he's dominating a very important diagonal. The knight here, it may seem that it could be vulnerable, but he has a way to escape, and it's going to be important for black. So definitely black is better here, and he's the only one, the one he's going to force the matters here. Now, as I said, c6, immediately getting rid of that nice knight on d5, and here some more or less forcing exchange, an intermediate move, bishop e3. Now he's attacking the bishop on c5, which is of course protected, but now he's also attacking the knight on e1. Bishop d3 played here by Richard Rapport, getting away from the attack with the knight, and well, now forcing some exchanges as he is attacking the knight, which is the only defender of this bishop on e3. So if the knight cannot go away because the bishop would be hanging, for instance, I don't know, knight c7 is not possible, rook c8, and both pieces are under attack. The same with knight e7 checking, f8, and both pieces are under attack, so forcing more or less this exchange. Now black has the possibility to take either on c5 or d5, and correctly Richard takes on d5, this strong knight of eliminating the strong knight of white. This, I guess, was also possible, but this may be not that great as the other endgame we'll see, because his own knight is now, well, the only reasonable square he has is b4, and well, this may not be that dangerous for white. So taking on d5 first, well, there are some exchanges of pawns here. White takes on d6, and black takes on e4. So this passed pawn is going to be important. Now it's already on the 5th rank for black, and now this knight is controlling lots of squares, and well, once the rook is developed, black is going to put lots of pressure on white's position. It's also worsened even more white pawn structure. Now white's got a couple of islands here, 3 here, which could be potentially very weak. And there we go with the rest of the game. King g1, some normal moves, f5, just protecting the pawns, the passed pawn, king f1, and now rook a6. Very interesting way of developing, because this was also possible, rook d8 attacking the bishop more or less in the same way, but this has the extra possibility of going over to the king side and putting just some pressure on the back rank, for instance, or the g3 pawn could be vulnerable. So bishop c7 was played, and here Rapport went king f7, although, as we saw, we had these possibilities, for instance, to go to rook h6, now threatening to go to h1 and win the game by taking the rook on b1. If king e2, for instance, now rook g6, the pawn on g3, there is no way to protect it. If rook d1, the rook could be attacking here and there. Now he goes to c6, attacking the bishop. Bishop d8. Now it could go back, for instance, to attack the g3 pawn, which is not. There's no way to protect it as bishop h4, and there are lots of moves here for black. But anyway, not to get confused, we went with king f7. Lots of game ahead. Yet g4. White is trying to improve his pawn's structure and isolate this passed pawn. Rook c6. Now Gelfand took on a5, forcing a couple of exchanges. Probably not the greatest decision, but already a difficult position for him. He had the option to go on to e5, where we could reach this endgame in which black is going to be up a pawn. And white could, with correct play, white possibly could hold, because his king is well placed to stop this passed pawn, which could be in fact vulnerable. But anyway, black had another option other than taking on e5. After bishop a5, he had this interesting g5 move, just attacking the pawn on f4, which is the only one protecting on e5, etc. Lots of interesting lines here. But Gelfand went with this bishop takes a5 line, which is more or less forcing rook a6, bishop c3, take, g takes f5, and now Richard plays e3. Rapport is going to create lots of problems to the white king, which is more or less the main issue here. Black rook, knight, and also the pawn are hoping to create lots of troubles. It's really weak. The back rank is the rook is on the second file, which is very strong. Here, Gelfand just protects the pawn on f4, which was under attack. Rook c2, bishop e1, king f6, proving his king's position. g4, protecting the one on f5, but leaving without protection the one on f4. I see no problem on taking on f4 here, which Rapport didn't do. I mean, bishop h4 check, your king is improving, and if bishop g3, the knight can go back. But here they already had lots of time pressure, and of course the move he did is also logical. h5, trying to just separate these pawns to take them one by one easily. Bishop h4 check. This is the other disadvantage. The bishop must go back. And now white takes on h5 without giving up the f5 pawn for the time being. But now rook h2 was played. Now this is not the strongest move. Rapport could have finished the game already here, but this is the move number 39. So he was they both had time troubles, I think, and he probably could have seen this the move we're going to see easily. He's a very strong GM. The move I'm talking about is e2 check. Only move, going to g1, as of course going to g2 is covered check. This is game over. So going to e1 now, the idea is to put the rook here and to go with the rook simply to d1, forcing the promotion of the pawn, and the knight is guarding on e1, and I just can't see what is white going to do. Seems pretty simple, but anyway, he went rook h2, making this a little bit longer, just to see it, to get us here watching this video for much longer time. Bishop e1 was played here, and king f6. Finally, he gets forward with his king. King g1, and now rook e2. Computer suggests to go to h3 with ideas, for instance, if rook d1, now e2 protecting the knight, and if king g2, knight takes f4 protecting the rook on h3, and both these pawns are, it seems they're going to fall very soon. But anyway, rook e2 was played here. Bishop c3 check, king takes f1, and bishop 2 on g7. King takes f4. Once again, king e4 seems much stronger to get through and create mating nets without taking the pawn and without exposing two checks with the bishop, for instance. h6, rook f1, king f3, and if, for instance, rook f1 check, king g3, and white just cannot ignore the threats against his king. h7 is just winning for black. Check, and e2, and well, this is almost this is already over. But anyway, he took on f4, giving this extra possibility to white to check on h6 and sacrifice his bishop to try to get with a couple of pawns to try to get the draw. But anyway, he is accurate enough to not let this happen, to not allow it, and he finally brought the victory home, the full point. So rook takes e3, and now some moves, king f1, rook a1, trying to activate the rook, couple of repetitions here, and now king g4. Black's idea is very simple, not to let white pawns go too far, take them all, and finally promote his own one, or either checkmate white, which wouldn't be bad either. So h6, knight f4, h7, and now already Richard Rapport plays rook h3. That pawn is not going to go much further. King f2. He played king f5. I really don't see the problem if black just takes. Probably he wants to keep white just here. I mean, do not let him go out of the cage on the with this rook on the third. But he could have taken there. But anyway, he goes like king f5, and some moves yet to be played. b4, knight d3 check, king e2, king e4 protecting, rook a8, just trying to promote. Of course, he's not going to allow that. Rook h2 check. The white king goes to the background, and now he takes. And after king d2, knight takes b4, just one pawn, just another pawn for white, and king c3, knight c6. The knight is safe there, protecting this couple of interesting squares, b4 and d4. Rook e8 check, and rook e7, and finally, after 60 moves, and don't really know, but maybe 5 or 6 hours of game, or even more, Boris Gelfand resigned the game. It is pretty obvious that if he exchanges, white is going to black is going to take the pawn of white, and he's going to promote his own. And otherwise, black is slowly going to improve his position, either attacking white king and or winning this pawn and advancing his own one to promote. Phew, so there we go. Long game, long video. Hope you liked the game, hope you liked the video, and see you there.